Hi, welcome to MediatorPodcast.com, a podcast and video series about mediation, negotiation, and collaboration. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation and mediation services in St. Louis, Missouri. During this episode, we will discuss how an experienced mediator gets results with Elliot Herland, a mediator focused on workers' compensation cases based in Minneapolis, and he's also the vice chair of the ABA section of dispute resolution and on the membership committee. You've actually been doing mediations for 20 plus years. You've done thousands. And tell us a little bit about, and you have like a 95 to 98% success rate. And your success rate, yeah. What?
The parties have that success rate. That's not mine. That's theirs. I'm just along for the ride and showing them how to get there. But,
well, and yeah, that's what I was going to say is it's really not your success is in helping them get to the finish line.
Right.
But what happens in those cases that don't get to the finish line? Are there things that you kind of see that could have been prevented or things to be aware of?
Oh, yeah, you bet. There's people with unrealistic goals. They think their case is worth $1 million when it's probably less than $100,000. There's arguments between the lawyers as to what the law means. I had a case where both lawyers had a different view of the law, and they were strident about their position. I was the second mediator on the case. They tried to mediate it once, and frankly, when I started that mediation, I didn't know why they were mediating it. They needed to go to court because they had a matter of law. I even brought them into the same room and asked them to argue why they were right, hoping that that would create some space for settlement. It was awful. They were more right at the end of that conversation. And I said, well, it looks like, and now that case went to the Court of Appeals and is now going to the Minnesota Supreme Court. So questions of law are pretty tough. If there's a surgery or something involved and there isn't alternative insurance, those are tough cases to settle. And then there's the COVID cases. I recently did a series of COVID case settlements. It actually was 6 cases getting mediated at once because it was one employer, one insurer, the 2 attorneys, and then all the different employees. And it was a mass outbreak in a particular facility, and these employees were suing in work comp for COVID. The problem is that none of them died, so there wasn't a huge exposure. The company, the employer, paid for the medical treatment, which was nominal. Sometimes it was just the test and it was free. They paid for the lost wages when they were quarantined for the 14 days. So ultimately, the employer and insurer were offering them $500, including the attorney's fees, right? So the plaintiff's attorney was like, well, I can't settle this case for $500. I need at least $10,000. We don't know what's going to happen. These might be the future asbestosis claims. We don't know what's going to happen with their lungs and their other organs, how COVID is going to affect them long term. Occupational diseases are a lot different than, say, orthopedic injuries, where you have a better idea of what the long-term effect is going to be. So those cases, not a single one settled. They're in that 2 to 4% that didn't settle. And they shouldn't have settled because both sides were right. It was very speculative. And it was very hard to put a value on those cases. And I suppose it's the same in family law. There's sometimes issues that make it impossible for people to resolve their cases, especially if there's mental illness involved, that kind of thing.
Well, and I think that, there are times when in mediation that we can get 75% of the issues solved, or, a reasonable solution, a reasonable agreement on the issues. And, a lot of times I think success also is, can we eliminate, how many issues can we eliminate taking to court? And then you're just up against one or two. And those are a little bit, that will be a lot different cost structure if you're taking two things to court as opposed to 20 things or something like that. So I think in that way, mediation helps, but mediation isn't always the cheapest option because the parties are in control. And so if they continue to, have disagreements on smaller things, then you could continue to have more mediation meetings and more, time kind of dealing with that.